In this lecture, I'll discuss a bit about creating or obtaining audio for your games. While I know most of you are not planning on becoming sound designers or composers, I know most of you will not have the resources to hire one while working on your games, and your games definitely need sound. Just like everything else, it's good to know enough that you can get by. There are three primary types of game audio: voice, sound effects, and music. Voice is probably one of the easier things to add to your game, as you can probably recruit friends and family as voice actors, and if you live near a college or university, theater students are always looking for experience acting. Working on a game may be exciting to them. Recording voice is not very hard if you follow a few simple tips. First off, get into an environment that is noise-free as possible. It's really hard to take out background noise in post-production. If you can, use a decent microphone and sound recording equipment. There are very affordable USB microphones that are a big step up from the built-in microphone in your computer. Don't talk too close to the microphone. Different microphones have a sweet spot of where they record best. Usually it's about the distance of the hang loose sign, away. Also, don't speak directly into the microphone. The microphone will pick up little puffs of air, what they call plosives, for the P's and the T's. So speak over the microphone or under the microphone if possible. And if possible, you can get a pop screen as shown here in the image. You can pick one of these up for relatively inexpensive. And you will probably need to adjust the mic levels based on your voice actors. If they're singing or yelling, you might have to turn the input down versus talking or whispering. You might have to turn it up just to maximize the levels that you're getting from your voice actor. There are many great sound editing tools available for recording and editing voice. Adobe creates a sound tool called Audition, which is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. The heavyweight for audio professionals is Avid Pro Tools. Audacity is a great open source free tool. If you don't already have a sound editing tool, I think Audacity is great. I highly recommend downloading and installing it for your audio needs across this course. There are two types of sound effects: reactive and ambient or atmospheric. Reactive sound effects are sound effects that occur when something happens in your game. If something moves in the game, it probably should make a sound. And of course, most player input should probably also have a sound effect tied to it, such as jumping and shooting. From the sound of birds off in the distance to the sound of people chatting nearby, ambient or atmospheric sound effects help the player feel like they're immersed in the game world. In terms of creating sound effects, with a decent audio recording device, you can go out into the world on location and record sound effects. And if you don't have a decent audio recording device, a smartphone would probably work in a pinch. You can also do some quick Foley work on your own. It's really amazing what you can do with just your voice and a few everyday items. For example, if I was trying to create a punching sound, I could just grab a water bottle and you get the idea. In terms of finding sound effects, there are many great places to find royalty-free, Creative Commons licensed, and licensable sound effects. Here are just a few that I've found useful in the past. I've included a document with live links to these resources and more. Feel free to post what you found in the online discussion. Music is one of the best ways to add emotional impact to your games. Nearly all games should have some form of music. And music happens to be one of those things that beginner game developers often overlook as they build their games. So you should think about it early in the design process. Don't save it for the last thing that you do. You should also debate what style is most suitable for your game or the particular game scenario. And you should take inventory of what you need. Think about how many levels are in your game and other things that you might use music in, such as main menus, credit sequences, cutscenes, and so forth. Here are some common questions you should ask yourself as you think about music in your games. First off, will it loop or end naturally? If it loops, it needs to loop seamlessly. How often will the music change? You don't want to drive your player crazy with repetitive music on a tight loop. And where will the music be used? Music in the main menu probably doesn't have to compete with other sound effects, while music in the game probably is secondary to those other sound effects. In terms of creating music, there are many great tools out there. Some of them, such as GarageBand and Fruity Loops, are easy enough to use that you don't even need to be a musician to get reasonable results. The other option, of course, is to find a composer. One option that may work for you is to locate a student or a friend or a hobbyist composer looking for experience working on a game project. They may produce music for free or for a very reasonable price for this experience. Of course, music creation may be a bit far outside of your comfort zone, so you may just want to find music to use in your game. There are many great resources out there with royalty-free, Creative Commons, or licensable music. Here are just a few resources that I've found useful in the past. I've included a document with live links to these resources and more. In terms of using commercially produced music from your favorite band, just realize that you would need to seek a license to include that music within your game if you plan to distribute it. If you do not have a license for this music and you include it in your distributed game, you would be violating copyright law. So what's next? In the next lecture, we'll discuss the overall asset pipeline.